The situation is tense at the Syunik Province section of the Armenia-Azerbaijan border in the direction of Ishkhanasar village. Telegram channels even wrote about clashes between the Armenian and Azerbaijani forces. Goris town deputy mayor Menouov wrote on Facebook that the Azerbaijanis had advanced at the Savlake area and were trying to deploy. Later, Goris deputy mayor Irina Yolyan reported that the Azerbaijani forces had passed Armenia's state border in the Ishkhanasar sector and advanced in the direction of Verishen settlement. According to her, hundreds were standing there. However, the Armenian Ministry of Defense noted that on early Wednesday morning, the Azerbaijani armed forces tried to carry out certain work in one of the border sectors of Syunik Province on the grounds of border adjustment. After the measures taken by the Armenian subdivisions, the Azerbaijani military stopped that work. At the moment, negotiations are underway to smooth the situation on the ground. The information being disseminated in the press about the ongoing battles in the direction of Ishkhanasar does not correspond to reality, the Ministry of Defense statement also noted. Meanwhile, Europe media agency reported that since Tuesday, the Azerbaijanis have advanced their positions also in the direction of Vardinis town of Armenia's Syunik Province. Locals informed that the Azerbaijanis have advanced 3 kilometers their military outposts up in the mountain and descended towards Verishen village, where the villagers' pastures and grasslands are. Freedom House has issued a statement in response to reports of abuse of Armenian POWs and civilian captives detained by Azerbaijan after their recent armed conflict. We are deeply concerned by the reports of dehumanizing treatment and abuse, including torture of Armenians captured and detained by Azerbaijan after the recent armed conflict, said Marc Behrendt, director of Europe and Eurasia programs at Freedom House. Also, it is noted that, and we quote, the fate of nearly 200 Armenians reportedly in Azerbaijani custody remains unclear amid reports of abuse and humiliation months after their return was mandated in a ceasefire ending the two countries' armed conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh. The Central Electoral Commission, the CEC of Armenia, has decided on the terms of the campaign season for the snap parliamentary elections on June the 20th. Accordingly, the election campaign will be held from June the 7th to June the 18th inclusive. The CEC on Tuesday made more than a dozen decisions, which are conditioned by the recent amendments to the Electoral Code, whereby there will no longer be regional electoral lists and solely a simple proportional representation electoral system with closed electoral lists will operate in the country. In particular, one of the decisions has stipulated that the ballots will no longer have regional candidates and no pen will be used and no marking will be made on these ballots. Voters will just select one of the ballots and put it in the envelope. It was also decided that the parties and blocs running in elections will no longer submit regional electoral lists. The election precincts will be formed by May the 26th. The parties and blocs planning to run in these elections shall submit their respective documents to the CEC by May the 26th at 6 p.m. and their registration shall be done by May the 31st. The deadline for parties and blocs for withdrawal is June the 10th, 6 p.m. Online voting will start on June the 1st and end on June the 13th. Armenia's political forces fighting for power are actively forming election headquarters and appointing their leaders. It is already known that the activities of the election campaign headquarters of the Armenia bloc, headed by second President Robert Kocharyan, will be coordinated by former Deputy Prime Minister Armen Gevorkyan. The office of the second president also informs that the headquarters will publish telephone numbers and an email address through which the media and citizens can receive information about the activities of this bloc. Prime Minister of Georgia, Irina Yolyan, arrived in Armenia on an official visit. He was greeted by Deputy Prime Minister Dikran Avinyan at Zvartnots International Airport. During his visit, Karabash is scheduled to have meetings with Acting Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Acting Foreign Minister Ara Ayvazyan. At the Armenian Genocide Memorial in Yerevan, the Georgian Prime Minister will pay tribute to the victims of this tragedy, and on behalf of Acting Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, an official dinner will be served in honor of the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Garibashvili. As of Wednesday morning, 354 new cases of the coronavirus were confirmed in Armenia, and the total number of these cases has reached 219,950 in the country. Also, 60 more deaths from COVID-19 were registered, making the respective total 4,272 cases. The number of people who have recovered over the past 1 day is 403, and the total respective number so far is 206,078. The situation in Gaza is getting worse. Clashes between Palestine and Israel continue. Shelling does not stop, and the civilian population continues to hide in bomb shelters. According to Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 43 people, including 13 children and 3 women, were killed, and another 296 were injured as a result of Israeli shelling. In turn, the Israeli media report 1 dead and 2 wounded. The total death toll is 5. Later, Israeli warplanes launched an airstrike at a residential building in Gaza. This 9-story building houses apartments, manufacturing facilities, and a dental clinic, AP reported.